Everything you need to know about TX2k. What is it? What is it about? What makes it so awesome? Some of the history and why this event is so great. Now, let's get into it. So, TX2k is an event that happens every single year in Texas, and it is just one of the biggest, baddest events of the year. People travel from all across the country to get there. It's even spawned events of similar caliber and class like FL2k, and a couple others have, followed suit in that deal. So, TX2k kind of started out as like a no prep Supra event. Realistically, it was on a small track in Houston in the early 2000s, and it was a Supra meet. It was the Supra Nationals. That's what it was. The owner, Peter Block, loved Supras, loved 2Js, so he just brought on all the Supras. People like Victor Alvarez, Real Street, Titan, those guys all met and saw who had the baddest Supra. And in that time, then the GTR started to come out and the Lambos started to get twin turbo. There started to be all this competition. That was just on the track. A lot of it was actually the streets. So, the streets of Houston, they're legendary. Kyle Loftus is well known for making them famous. Well known. This is Kyle Loftus, going out there, filming these street stuff, making DVDs and selling them, and they were unbelievable. I was actually just sitting and watching some of them with my son the other day because they're all on YouTube now, and they are fun to watch, some of these 800-900 horsepower cars, and that was big. 800-900 horsepower cars in the early 2000s on the street was pretty awesome. Still pretty awesome, honestly. And that's where it started. It started as a small thing of just shops and racers, and it rolled on and grew and ballooned into what it is now. People know it for the exotics, the imports, and the domestics kind of going head to head as like this, trifecta that you don't see anywhere else. You realistically do not see the, exotic supercars doing this. And that brings out some, challenges, of course. Some people that don't drive their cars all that much, and then they roll up to try to do, 230, 240 miles an hour in a roll race in a car that has street tires, and it gets scary. Obviously, those high horsepower cars don't have street tires, but you get my point. There's 1,500 horsepower cars that appear completely stock, R8, and they roll out of the trailer, they hand the customer the keys, and they say, let her eat. And then you end up seeing some of the most unbelievable roll racing of all time. It really is. They've even gone so far as in past years extending it to 1,500 feet, which just put the mile an hour into stupid numbers of 200 plus mile an hour. I think 236 was the record from a GTR. Crazy, I know. And in 2023, it actually moved from Houston Raceway Park over to Texas Motorplex in Dallas. So Houston was its home for a long time. I've went to many of them. I have a trophy back there from them. I've done the street stuff. I've partaked across the board in a lot of these activities, and I can say it has always been great. I haven't made it to Dallas yet. There's plenty of reasons for that, but mostly just because, the racing, I've been there, I've done that. And as much as I want to go back, it just isn't in the cards at the moment. But like I said, been runner-up in the streetcar class, in the B group, in the 2 group, and it's always a good time. Like I said, the competition brings out the event brings out the competition. That's what it comes down to. It just really does. There's a first couple days of roll racing, then it gets right into drag racing. There's a car show, there's vendor booths, and there's tens of thousands of fans. I mean, it's going to be fans from end to end. That is what racers want to do. They want to race in front of fans. Like I said, you'll see everything. You'll see GTRs, Supras, Lambos, Vipers, some muscle cars, but you'll see things like 4,000 horsepower street-driven Vipers to your full-blown chassis car like a Snot Rocket or something like that, and everywhere in between. And then the what is a streetcar debate fires up, but it doesn't really matter because the classes are fairly simple. Like I said, the Nightlife, I don't know how much it still goes on. I know they've tried to crack down on it. I know that it's what it's famous for and what people love about it, but it's hard to really say what happens anymore. I'm not in the know. I'm not there. I don't street race, so hard to know. But I'd imagine some of those, Lambos and stuff still like to go and fool around. Texas is a big place. There's a lot of hidden areas where you can go have some fun. This event has even done unique things that you don't see, like spawning small shootouts. There would be like a race here all day at, say Houston Raceway Park. But then, in the middle of the night over here, there's like a 20 car shootout. Or at a different track, there's a race. Or here, there's something going on. Like, it's so big and there's so many people that there's so much racing just going on in the city. Like, people actually go to other tracks during the event because there's other stuff going on. That's how many people show up. That's how much racing happens. It is like a race week of racing. It's kind of crazy how that ends up working. And then there's been just so much big stuff, like the first 6 second GTR, Giddy. There's probably going to be a 5 second pass in the 2JZ versus the world this year between either Snot Rocket or White Rice. They're both going to creep up on that. White Rice has already gone 6.2 in qualifying. Brett's been 6.04. So they're both pushing for that. White Rice knows they have to figure out a 5 second pass to, race Brett on his best day and, for the competition to be good in that class. So, like I said, 2JZ versus the world. That's the big class. Then they have an exhibition class that'll have some pretty awesome stuff. They have X58, which is like the new Supras, which is the B58, or the new BMWs, which is the S58, those engines, and there's a packed field of that. People are already pushing, 1600 horsepower on those engines. They're already going mid sevens, like they're fast cars. So we're going to see pretty serious racing there. Those cars, unfortunately, don't have the best racing, in my opinion, because like with the trans setups, they sometimes do some stupid, funky stuff, and you end up like number one qualifier goes out to the bottom qualifier just because his trans decided not to transmission. I don't know. Tangent. But 2JZ versus the world, the fastest class of the event. Nine cars in the class right now. Larry in his S15, the orange one. There's fast Datsun in there. There's ton of fast Supras in there. There's 2 Mustangs, and then there's some more Supras. And then there's Dirty Taco, the Tacoma, which should also be a front runner. I know they said the aerodynamics kind of makes it tough to run quarter mile, but it should be in the front runner. And Eric Laferriere and even Victor Alvarez in the induction Supra should all be highly competitive in that class if they can make it work. They have DCT, which ends up being like your dual clutch trans, so that ends up being like your Audi R8, your Porsche 911, your Nissan GTR, your Lamborghinis, things along those lines. And that class even they even run that on a Sportsman tree because some of those cars do some funky things, and that's a big class as well. There's about 70 cars, but that is another class, like weird things end up happening because those cars do funky things. Sometimes the transmissions don't transmission, and they do some odd things. They have a couple GTR classes, GR68, which is the like stock turbo size deal, I believe. Then they have GTR Unlimited, which ends up bringing out like cars that are 3,300 horsepower. The average horsepower in that class is 2,600. And then they have the street car class, and that is a large class. There is 76 cars signed up. Again, they put the average horsepower at 1,700 horsepower, and that class should be like a 690 for the A group, and it goes 16, then the B group is 16, then the C group is 16, and then the D group. They call them all different things. It's like Elite, Pro, Tuner, and Street. But that class should be pretty fast. That's the class I've ran in. That's the, runner-up I have. And I tend to fall in that B group, which is kind of why I don't go out there. It's a long drive to end up in the B group and kind of trying to dial your car in for what the B group is. I honestly might not even fit this B group. But then you get this problem where the A group ends up being, like a few 6-second cars, and then the variation gets big. So the 7-second cars become more, abundant. There's like maybe 1 or 2 690 cars. That's how I imagine it'll go. 1 or 2 690 cars, and then about 10, 12, 13-ish, like 730 to 780 cars will be in that. And then I believe the B group will probably end up being 780s of some kind. That's where I see it going. Maybe it'll be a little faster. Maybe it'll be like a 760, 770, but that's usually what happens. And then the people that are slower try to, not run their cars too hard in qualifying to try not to end up in that A group. It's just what happens, and it's unfortunate that it ends up happening like that. And then, likely, the coolest class on property, stick shift. Stick shift is awesome. You guys know on this channel I have interviews with many of these stick shift drivers, and some of the ones that are going to be out there are some of the ones that we all know about. So you got your Miles Kerr, you got your Lucas English, you got your Joel Granis, you got your Aaron Lopez, your Devin Schultz, Nick Coleman, Jonathan Atkins, Sean Madden. Like, these are all the top front runners in stick shift. These are all your 6-second capable deals. I mean, maybe not all of them, but some of those cars are 6-second capable, like mid 6-second capable cars. Like somebody like Nick Coleman, pretty solid unit. He's got that little S10 truck, and that car is easily capable of a 650 if he needs to wick it up. And then you obviously have your Jonathan Atkins with what I believe now is the dark grubworm, because he changed the colors to black. Looks pretty sick like that. Easily a mid 6-second capable car as well. So it'd be cool to see that kind of stuff happen. And the average horsepower there is 1,800. Nice, even 1,800, and it's only brought down by a couple of Corvettes. Heavyweight. Heavyweight's an interesting one. I believe the rules say it has to be over 4,000 pounds, but it cannot be a Mustang, which is funny because, the S197s, the S550s, they fit this, but it can't be a Mustang. And, heavyweight is your Challengers, your Demons, your Red Eyes, your Trackhawks, your things like that. There's some BMWs, and across the board, it's just some heavier vehicles still going fast. They're still going 8s. Heavyweight, I believe, took a lot of cars from street car that would have been the lower classes in street car and ended up being in heavyweight instead. So that made it kind of a split class, which is a good idea. Take some rules out, take some of the index off of these guys, and makes it a little more streamlined for them. And then let's look at some results from last year. So last year, they had the 2JZ class, and that was Eric LaFerriere in White Rice, ended up winning that one. They have Streetcar Elite, ended up being Brett LaSala, John Lund final, and now Brett LaSala has stepped into 2JZ, so who knows who's got this one in the bag. It'll be an interesting class. And then some of the other stuff, Streetcar Stick Shift was Jonathan Atkins and Nick Coleman in the finals. Nick Coleman went runner-up with a faster 687 to a 697. So that was, Coleman went red. Forgot about that. Yeah. Things like that, it's going to be an awesome race. I sit back and watch it every year because, like they said, it's the Super Bowl of streetcar events. It genuinely feels like that a lot of ways. It's very different than your World Cup, where World Cup has this, list of rules that are a mile thick, which makes it fun for a different reason. This has its own list of fun things. Even people like LaSala, they had to add a bunch of weight to their car to run this class, so yes, it'll slow it down a bit, but I'm sure they'll have to figure something out, and maybe they'll be running just as fast. Who knows? But they had to add like 100+ pounds to that deal, I believe. So we'll see how that works out for him. I'm excited. I love TX2k. It's awesome. I am rooting for all my boys out there. Hopefully they get some trophies. My boy Jimmy Dale's racing again in the street car. Hopefully he makes this one happen. But that's about it. I believe we covered everything. 1320 will be there on site doing the day-to-day videos. That track channel does some awesome day-to-day uploads, or if you want, you can watch it on Flow, but I prefer to just watch the next day, see what happens, keep up with it on social media and all that stuff. It makes it a little easier. It's my preference. I just don't pay for Flow. I prefer not to. If you want to watch it live, they do have it live. But yeah, it'll be a great event. I recommend getting out there, and it's going to be fun. So I believe that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like these kind of things, hit the follow, hit the subscribe button. I'll do them for more events as they come up. But thank you. I will see you next time.